What turns an ordinary man into a monster? November 9th, 1971. A quiet suburban street in Westfield, New Jersey. Behind the walls of a seemingly normal home, a horror was unfolding that would haunt America for decades. John List, accountant, churchgoer, family man, was about to commit the unthinkable. To neighbors, John List embodied respectability. A hard-working man of strict principles, raising his family in a comfortable suburban home. His daily routine was predictable. He left for work each morning with briefcase in hand, attended church services regularly, and maintained a neat, orderly household. But beneath this perfect facade, a storm was brewing. Financial ruin loomed as his career crumbled around him. Disgrace was at his doorstep. The life he had carefully constructed was collapsing, and in List's disturbed mind, there was only one way to save his family from the shame that awaited them. That November evening began like any other in the List household. Dinner was served at the family table. Conversation filled the rooms. Laughter echoed through hallways. The warmth of family life filled the air, creating a stark contrast to the coldness that had settled in John's heart. No one suspected these would be their final moments together. Helen, his wife, was the first. In the dim light of that autumn evening, her gentle smile faded forever as John carried out his grim plan. The woman who had stood beside him through years of marriage now lay still, her eyes, once bright with love, now forever closed. Next was his mother, Alma, the woman who had raised him with tender care, who had moved into their home in her later years. The family home that had once been filled with her warmth became a stage for unimaginable tragedy as her life was suddenly cut short. Then, one by one, his children. Patricia, a young woman with dreams untold, whose future held so much promise. Frederick, his only son, who would never grow into the man he might have become. And finally, Susan, his youngest daughter, whose life had barely begun. 5 lives extinguished in a single night, leaving behind rooms frozen in time. A house where death now kept its silent watch. The methodical nature of the killings revealed a mind that had detached itself from the humanity of the act. Each murder was executed with precision, each body carefully positioned. There was no rage, no passion, only the cold calculation of a man who believed he was performing a necessary duty. Morning came to Westfield. The sun rose over tree-lined streets as neighbors went about their daily routines. But as the day progressed, they noticed something wrong. The List house stood too quiet, too still. Lights remained off. No movement could be seen through the windows. The family car remained in the driveway, yet no one came or went. When investigators finally entered, what they found defied comprehension. The scene was eerily pristine. No struggle, no forced entry. Instead, they discovered the victims carefully arranged in a tableau that spoke of cold, calculated planning. The bodies of Helen, Patricia, Frederick, and Susan were positioned on sleeping bags in the ballroom of the house, while Alma's body was found in her attic apartment. This was no random act of violence, but a methodical execution carried out by someone they had welcomed into their lives. But John List was nowhere to be found. In a final, chilling act, he had vanished without a trace. He had left behind a letter to his pastor explaining his actions, a disturbing glimpse into the mind of a man who believed murder was preferable to the shame of financial failure. He had cancelled milk delivery, stopped mail service, and withdrawn his children from school, all to delay the discovery of his crimes and give himself time to disappear. For nearly 2 decades, the mystery haunted investigators and tormented a community desperate for answers. The List case file remained open, the photographs of the crime scene a constant reminder of justice unfulfilled. Some neighbors whispered the family had simply fled their troubled lives. Others feared something far more sinister. Local children claimed the house was haunted, and passers-by would cross to the other side of the street rather than walk past the property where such horror had occurred. Then, in 1989, 18 years after that blood-soaked night, a breakthrough shattered the silence. The television show America's Most Wanted aired a segment featuring a clay bust of what List might look like after all those years. A viewer recognized the face. Living under the alias Robert Clark, John List had built an entirely new existence far from his past. He had remarried, found employment as an accountant, and settled in Richmond, Virginia. In another suburban neighborhood, he had seamlessly blended in. The same man who attended church services, who played chess in the park, who nodded politely to neighbors, was the killer who had eluded justice for nearly 2 decades. His transformation was almost supernatural, a complete reinvention that allowed him to hide in plain sight. He had altered nothing about his personality or habits, only his name. When authorities finally connected the pieces, the nation was stunned. How could someone who appeared so normal harbor such darkness? Faced with overwhelming evidence, List's carefully constructed facade crumbled. His capture reopened wounds that had never truly healed and forced the community to confront a truth they had long feared. The man who had haunted their collective memory was finally facing accountability for his actions. The courtroom fell silent as prosecutors detailed the precision of his crimes. They painted the picture of a man who believed he was sparing his family from dishonor, not through an act of passion, but through calculated execution. Each piece of evidence revealed the extent of his planning: the cancelled services, the withdrawn school registrations, the letter explaining his twisted reasoning. The defense argued for a disturbed mind, tormented by fear and warped beliefs. As evidence mounted, witnesses recounted the man they thought they knew: quiet, stern, unremarkable. Former neighbors described the List family's daily routines, the children's activities, the seemingly normal life that had hidden such darkness. The jury saw photographs of a home suspended in time, preserved as a monument to lost lives. And when they delivered their verdict, it echoed with the sorrow of a community that had waited nearly 20 years for justice. John List received life in prison without parole, a sentence that could never bring back those he had taken. In prison, List finally spoke about his crimes. He maintained that he believed he was sending his family to heaven, saving them from the corruption of the world. He expressed no remorse, only a disturbing certainty that he had done what was necessary. Until his death in 2008, he remained convinced of the righteousness of his actions. Today, the name John List stands as a chilling reminder that evil often wears the mask of normality. His ability to reinvent himself and escape justice for so long speaks to the darkest corners of human capability. The List family tragedy forces us to question how well we truly know those around us, how the person who lives next door, who works in the next office, who sits beside us in church, might harbor secrets too terrible to imagine. As Westfield continues to heal, the memory of that November night lives on. Quiet streets and well-kept homes still whisper the story of Helen, Alma, Patricia, Frederick, and Susan, lives cut short by the man who should have protected them most. Their voices, though silenced, continue to speak a truth we dare not forget. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters are hidden behind the faces we trust, and the greatest dangers may lie not in the shadows, but in the light of ordinary day, behind the door of a home just like yours.